Today I'd like to talk a little bit about how much to write to make it productive and to make it safe. Because as with any tool, using it without skill, using it without reason or awareness, we can harm ourselves sometimes. And writing is quite a powerful tool. In Russia, that is the region that I know best of, therapeutic writing mostly came into people's field of awareness from the books of Julia Cameron, especially The Artist Way. And in The Artist Way there is this practice called the morning pages. That means 3 A4 pages that are to be written by hand or typed. Strictly, the instruction says first thing in the morning when you wake up. And that's about half an hour of writing. Unfortunately, in her books there are no safety precautions whatsoever, besides just a little contract that you need to sign with the book, that you take the full responsibility for your mental state and approach a therapist if you feel worse. That would work for an American audience, but would not really work for the Russian one. Both because of limited availability of therapy and because it's not a very culturally appropriate thing. Kathleen Adams, the leader of the therapeutic writing movement nowadays, one of the leaders, in the end of 1990s has conducted a research about whether you can really get better by using morning pages or if you can get worse. Are there any incidents of people getting worse? Because you wouldn't find an implication of that or mention of that in the original books about morning pages. Well, the books need to sell and bad publicity doesn't help selling. But if we work with people's inner space, we need to be really careful, because the code of ethics of helping professionals, it's always there, and we need to do no harm as usual. So what Kathleen Adams discovered? She discovered that actually quite a significant proportion of people who had problems, difficulties, mood disorders, anxiety, depression and such, post-traumatic stress disorder, they got worse after using morning pages. Their symptoms became stronger, they felt less able to influence their own life. So something was missing in this morning pages instruction that would make the writing safer for them. Fortunately, of course, for most of the people who don't have traumatic experiences, morning pages would work nicely. And it's really hard to predict. That's why I overdo the conversations about safety every time, because it's better to be overprotected than underprotected in many cases. At least I believe so. So when I read it in Kathleen Adams' books about what do you need to keep in mind to make writing work for you, I was really delighted that somebody has already researched that and thought about it. And she came with 3 main points that need to be considered when you are deciding to write about your life, especially if you plan or feel like you're going to write about something painful or difficult. So these 3 points are structure, pacing and containment. Structure can be structure in space, in time, or in the content of what you're writing. For example, if you need to really focus your mind, take a very small sheet of paper. For example, if you know that when you write a to-do list, you write 20 points, 20 items, and at the end of the day you look at it and it's not done. Take a sticky note and write 1, 2, 3. There is no more space. This is one type of structuring it. If The structuring with time is using the timer. It's really hard to go too deep or too in the rut of your own thoughts if you're writing for 5 minutes. Kathleen Adams compares this to the diving that whales do and diving that dolphins do, because a whale goes down for an hour and a dolphin cannot do that. The dolphin dives and comes up, dives and comes up, and this is what we should, or what we would better do if we want to approach some difficult topic carefully. Short dives, then come back up to recover. Set a timer and listen to it. So when you set a timer, you take away the control function out of your own head, so to speak, and put it outside. So at the moment when you write, you don't need to think, have I written enough? Is it my time to stop? Am I writing too much? The timer will tell you, ding, now you're free. And you can take a few increments of writing like this. This is structuring by time. Structuring by content is using guiding questions, because in morning pages sometimes you can just sit and let anything that comes to your mind that just pour out on the page. But sometimes you wake up, for example, some people wake up and they feel really unwell, or we have this inner community of voices, and some voices are more helpful, more supportive, more protective of us, and some voices are more critical, more demeaning, more degrading. Have a lot of them. So if you wake up and you feel unwell and the critical voices are stronger, and you then start to write down everything that comes to your mind, that just makes the critical voices even stronger, because the written word feels more substantial. Now you have written that, it must be true about you. And of course you have these negative identity conclusions and start to feel worse. But if you have questions to guide you, they would help not to drift towards the domain of the critical voices. It's like having a buoy or an anchor that will tie you up to your preferred direction. What can the guiding questions be? For example, if you're still thinking about writing about something that has been hurting you, has been influencing you in a way that made you feel weaker, not quite yourself, it is good to write first about your hopes. Like, I want to solve this problem because it gets in the way of such and such and such my dreams. What would be the good outcomes for me of solving this problem? What would I hope my life would look like and feel like if I get rid of this problem, if this problem becomes weaker in my life? We can also refer to the skills and knowledges that we have, saying, despite this traumatic event that happened in my life, or despite these problems that I'm having in my life now, I am still able to do certain things, and I still have achieved something that I'm proud of, and it is. We can also write, people who respect me notice in me something, and they appreciate in me that I'm able, or that my contribution to other people. So in narrative practice, this is called the riverbank position. This comes from a metaphor that originated in Africa, when one of the founding fathers of narrative therapy, Michael White, taught in Africa. His listeners told him, yes, when you're saying that we shouldn't dive into the problematic story straight away, but we should build the territory of preferred identity first, make it firmer, more reliable. This is like crossing a river that is full of crocodiles. If we get distracted by looking at the crocodiles while we are in the river, we might get eaten or drowned, first we need to get to the riverbank. We need to get to the riverbank, and then we can feel safe, secure, turn towards the river, look at it, and count the crocodiles. So this is very important. Find your riverbank position. Find what is good, despite some things being bad. And first write about that.